Hi everyone and happy Friday. So today there's gonna be a lot of cooking in the kitchen. I got a turkey a few weeks ago for free when I was doing groceries. They had a promo on at the grocery store. So I've got to figure out what I'm gonna be doing with that. And my plans are set aside some meat for turkey burgers, and then I'm gonna be making a turkey stew out of it. And then I don't know what else. So we'll figure it out. And then I've got some pork chops. I've got a flank steak, I think is the cut, and some chicken thighs. So I'll be making 3 different types of stews for those. Enjoy this episode and happy Friday. I completely forgot to hit record. So I'll tell you what I've been doing. Let me just turn this off and give it a mix. So I definitely don't want to burn anything. So I have my turkey in my Instapot. This burner is so small, we only really use it for our kettle. This is my pork, this is my beef, and this is my chicken. So what I've done is when my vegetables, my carrots and celery were all done, I turned everything off because cutting the meat took actually a lot longer than I thought. So I turned everything off because I didn't want to burn anything. Then when I was done cutting everything, I came back, turned everything on, put a little pinch of salt over everything, and then I put in my onions. And that was my next step. Once the onions were halfway done, then I threw in my meat. So I threw in my chicken, my beef, my pork chops that I cut up, and then my turkey that I basically disassembled off of that big turkey that I had. So it's basically all turkey breast meat in there. So now that the meat is halfway there to being done, you're going to not worry about it because you're going to be pouring your broth into each one. Now, if you are doing a chicken stock or a chicken stew and you don't have any chicken broth in your pantry, don't panic because I switch things up all the time. And you would actually be very surprised as to what kind of flavors that are new that you can bring to the table. So this is what I'm doing. I'm doing a chicken broth in my chicken stew, which is fine. If you're a wine drinker and you have any leftover wine, like a Riesling or a Moscato, like a little bit of the sweeter wines, you can put a cup of the wine in there now before you put your broth in, and it will just give it such a flavor that no one will be able to pinpoint exactly what that flavor is, but you'll know because you made it. And it gives such a unique, different, great flavor to your chicken stew when you put that wine in. Ultimately, if you like dry wines, you could do that as well. But feel free to experiment. You really can't go wrong with putting a cup of wine in this. So once you do that and pour any liquid, what you're going to do is you're going to have basically stuff, your vegetables and your meat, that are gonna stick to the bottom. Now it's not burning, it's just sticking to the bottom. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna put about ½ an inch worth of liquid into the bottom, and you're just gonna take your utensil, whatever you're using, and you're just gonna run it along the bottom. And it's basically like washing the dishes with your vegetables. So just like if you say you burn something, you would fill it up in the sink, let it sit there. This is what you're doing on the stove, except the reason you're doing it this way is to release all of that caramelized flavor off the bottom of your pot and releasing it into your broth. And it gives it such a depth of flavor. Oh, it's delicious. I do this every time. So you're gonna go and scrape. Now, if you have a really flimsy spatula or silicone spoon or anything like that, if it's a stiff enough one, you can usually get off the bottom, but I find like, it depends on what silicone. So spatula you have. So this blue one, that's kind of like more spoonish, I can do it. But this one that's just kind of flat, it doesn't have anything. It's so bendy, it doesn't really do anything. Whereas this one, which is a silicone spoon, is stiff enough that I have no problem with it. So see what works for you. But you're just going to do this until basically 90% of the stuff on the bottom has lifted. And if you can get 100%, well, all the power to you. But you're basically aiming for about 90%. Once 90% has released off the bottom, then you're gonna put the rest of your broth of whatever choice, of whatever kind you're using, and you're just gonna fill up the pot. And you're just gonna let it sit there and hang out for about half an hour, because you're wanting all the flavors to release, and you're wanting to, you know, it's like a good club. They're dancing with each other, having a good time. At the end of the night, everyone's had a great time. They go home. So same thing, you're starting a party. Everyone's kind of meeting and greeting right now. You put in all your broth. That's when the party really starts going, and it's only a half an hour party. So that one is already done, and it's waiting for the rest of the broth. This beef one, okay, I've released everything off the bottom already. Now this one I'm using a beef broth. I know, nothing exciting so far. But wait, this one is my pork. So I still have to release all of the stuff at the bottom. It's getting there, but this one's so flimsy that it's kind of useless. It's for this application. It's a great spatula, but for this, it doesn't do anything because it's so flimsy. But what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take my chicken one and I'm just running it along the bottom and releasing it. Now with the pork, so I just took pork chops, I got them on sale, I cut them up, cut up all the fat off and whatnot, cut them into small pieces. And what I'm doing for this one is I'm actually using a faux broth, which I thought would be kind of cool and give it kind of a different spin on it. But, and this is where I mean, you can experiment. Don't always think, oh, chicken with chicken, beef with beef, vegetable with vegetable. I'm doing a turkey and I'm doing a vegetable broth in this one because I want the turkey flavor to really stand out. I want that to be my showstopper, the taste of it. But ultimately, you could do a beef with this. That would give it like a more deeper flavor. Or if your family is not, say, crazy about turkeys and they, you know, you guys are mainly a chicken family, feel free to put chicken broth in with your turkey stew. It's not like there's a cop waiting outside being like, you didn't put chicken with chicken. How dare you? You know, feel free. Like, this is the time to experiment and you'd be surprised. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't know. And it turns out fantastic. Like the last time I made this, I put a cup of Moscato wine, and I was thinking, oh, it's a little bit on the sweet side. Oh my gosh. One of the best chicken stews I have ever made. And now if I had any Moscato left over, I'd be doing this exact same thing. With the beef, feel free, if you've got a bottle of red open and it's been a few days and nobody really wants to drink it, put it in here. You don't have to worry about kids eating anything with alcohol in it because the alcohol will evaporate. Now with alcohol, you don't want to put it in right away and then serve it because the alcohol hasn't had a chance to evaporate. You want to have it simmer there for a couple of minutes, just so the alcohol can evaporate and then everyone can eat it. Your kids, your mom, dad, whoever. Okay, so I'm gonna add a little bit of more broth into this one and this one because these are all ready to go. Now I've put these on low just because with everything simmering all at once, I'm fighting the noise and they're totally drowning me out. So I've got one. Now I'm gonna open up another one. Now what I do with these guys is if you ever have a broth that you've opened and you basically use half of it, I always date it if you don't use up the whole thing, because then you actually know, oh, when did I open this? How old is it? And I do that with my yeast as well. I've added 2 boxes into here. I'm gonna turn up the heat because that'll take a while for it to start sizzling. Now for the beef, I've scraped everything off the bottom. This is gonna go into here. And we're just gonna give that a stir. Now remember, my beef and basically all the meat is not quite done. So this is like medium well done, and some of them are kind of medium rare, but I'm okay with that because now the flavors are going to mesh with the beef and with the meat of each one, and they're gonna interact with all the broth. We're gonna have a party with the veggies. They're gonna be hanging out, drinking, having fun, dancing, laughing, and in half an hour, the party's over. So that's gonna hang out. Just gonna find lids because I wanna bring it up to temperature that much faster. So I'm gonna close this because that's done. I'm gonna close this because that's done for now. And if you're looking at 4 pots all at the same time and you're not used to bulk cooking, it can feel very, very overwhelming. So this way, you've shut it, you don't have to worry about anything. This one, you don't have to worry about anything. You can turn up the heat a little bit. This one and this one, now I'm only dealing with 2 open pots instead of 4, because all that I have to worry about these 2 is once they get up to the boiling point, I just take it off, and that's it. So this turkey is done. So again, I'm gonna turn it on. I'm gonna give it a good mix. And I haven't added any broth to this because I was waiting for the turkey to get halfway done, which it is. And I'm using the vegetable broth. So now, because those 2 are figured out, this one's just hanging out on low. I'm scraping from time to time. This one I've got to start scraping because it's ready. And that's gonna hang out for a little bit. Now, the way that I got into batch cooking was you just start. There's no easy way of starting. You just, as intimidating as it might seem, if you're not a big cook or comfortable in the kitchen, start off small. Do 1 stew. Then the next time, double your recipe. And then maybe the time after, try, say, a beef and a chicken and do 1 serving of each. So you have 1 that you're gonna do tonight, 1 that you're gonna maybe freeze or maybe have it tomorrow. And then you eventually start building and building and you feel more and more and more comfortable. And it actually is so much fun to bulk cook. And it's so easy. Yesterday we were running around. I had a ton of errands. The kids they're always starving when they come home from school, but they were starving. My husband was, crazy busy at work. And I had 2 perfectly wonderful jars filled of chicken stew. So you just dump them, heat them. We were eating in no time. So it's so nice that you don't have to worry of, oh, I have to cook something for dinner, or every night it's different, or, my family doesn't eat leftovers. That's fine. They don't have to eat leftovers. You don't have to eat out every single day. You can batch cook like this, and then that could be 1 week, that could be say Monday, Wednesday, and say Saturday. And then that would be maybe lunch for sometime during the week on the next week. And if you make enough different kinds of meals and just have them frozen, then you're not eating stew Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then by Friday you're like, I'm sick of it, I'm over it, I'm never gonna batch cook again. You do have to get diversity in, but a great way to start even batch cooking, like it doesn't happen overnight. And all these YouTube channels, and all the power to the women that do batch cooking on a huge scale. I don't have the time. I don't have the space. Like I said, I have to buy my broth. Now, mind you, I know how to make it, and I do on occasion, but I only have a small freezer. I don't have a pressure cooker. You know, there's a lot of things that you need. I don't have mason jars. I don't have lids or rings or any of those items. So for now, yes, I'm buying my broth in a box. Am I okay with it? Well, yeah, because I can, you know, I'm still taking control over what I'm cooking in the house, and I'm taking control over what my family eats. I'm just buying one extra thing. So, but everything else, I know what's in it. Okay, so now everything's basically lifted off of this guy. I'm gonna add the rest of my faux. So there's the rest of this box. And once you start getting more and more comfortable in the kitchen, the sense of independence and power that you feel when you're in the kitchen is just awesome. Like the fact that I can make 4 different types of stews and I'm not overwhelmed, I think is so awesome. My husband thinks it's great because he gets a great meal out of it. The kids, they're always hungry, so they love eating. So they don't complain there, and they're always asking, "Oh, Mama, what did you make? What did you know, what are you doing? Can I help?" So I get them along. Although you'll never see them on this channel. But, you know, it gives me a sense of independence and power that I'm able to create these meals for my family. And I feel great about it. And you don't have to do everything from scratch. I didn't grow any of these vegetables. Am I trying to grow stuff? Well, yeah. But I sowed an entire bed of carrots and not a single thing came up. I'm not crying over it. I don't know what I did wrong, but I'm gonna try again. And this is how you get into, you know, getting into a homestead. I'm sure that's how they started. I'm trying to create an urban homestead, and you guys are coming along for the journey, and let's see what we can do. Let's see if it's possible. I hope it is. I want it to be. But along the journey, we're gonna have an awesome time learning what's working, learning what's not, creating cool meals like, you know, pork chop stew with faux broth in it. So that one's done. Now I don't have to do anything else to it. I'm just waiting for it to boil, and I'm covering that up because I don't have anything to do for it. Oh, I thought I heard something. I thought I heard something bubbling. So the last one I have is turkey. So everything has, just gonna give it one more quick scrape. Oh, I really wish I had smell-o-vision on this YouTube channel. I don't. It smells so good. I'm just gonna add the rest of my vegetable broth into here. And give this a good shake. Now the only thing that I have to let you know is I use as much as I can the no salt added broth. Now my faux, it doesn't say, the only ones that have a label of no salt is my chicken. The beef and the faux don't have anything. This one is a low sodium, and that's literally the only thing that I could find. I don't cook with a whole lot of salt, so just be very careful when you're adding your salt to see what type of broth that you're using. If you're using a homemade broth, then you know exactly how much salt is in there. If you're using these store-bought broths, I'll show you the non-French version, but this one has like no salt added, low sodium. Okay, so this one has a low amount of salt. This one doesn't have any added, but then these two don't have anything. So the sodium is, for 1 cup, 630 milligrams, and this one is 690 for the faux. So for this one and this one, I'm not adding any salt whatsoever. Like, I added a pinch at the very beginning for the juices to kind of let out, and that's it. I'm not adding any more. So if you're a family that really likes stuff on the salty side, use your own discretion, but always keep in mind what you're adding from the store, because to over salt it, no one's gonna enjoy it. And it's very, very hard to fix because sometimes it's not always just as easy as, oh, I'll throw in some water or I'll throw in some broth. Sometimes it still won't cut it. So just be very, very mindful of that because it's so easy to screw up. So nothing's boiling yet, but because I like to baby everything, I'm just gonna give that a mix. I'm gonna give this guy a mix. Now I can see that my stew is a little on the thick side as far as not the liquid itself, but the amount of produce and meat. Well, I don't even have all that much meat in there, but the amount of vegetables that I have. And I know for my family, my kids and my husband like things a little bit on the runnier side. So yes, technically it's a stew, but if you add a little bit more liquid and it becomes a soup, it's fine. Because right now everything technically is a soup. When you add in a thickener, that's when it becomes more of a stew, or when you don't have as much liquid. So that one's figured out. This one I'm just gonna add a little bit more. Now, if you don't have any, say I didn't have any more beef, I could always add in chicken. And I'm just gonna give that a stir. Now we're just gonna close the lid because that's figuring itself out. And this guy, I'm gonna turn it back on. And I'm gonna scrape all the veggies down to the bottom to where the liquid is, because they're up on the sides. And then I'm gonna let it hang out.